This is from the Wrap. Elizabeth Warren slams Hegseth for refusing to meet with her about his record on women. And ultimately, Hegseth had agreed he would support women in combat roles if confirmed, saying that so long as the standard remains high, he would be okay with it. So Elizabeth Warren basically is grandstanding, saying, you don't want women in combat. Now, why is she doing it? She's doing it to get a viral clip that her campaign can send out to a bunch of people and say, here's why you should give us money, because I yelled at Pete Hegseth.
Yeah.
Right. Did he at one point? He said he thought women should not be in combat.
One point, he said it like 50 times.
Okay, so at 50 points he said that, and now he's reversed his decision to say that he'd be okay with it if they meet the standards that everyone else.
And the standards are high.
I totally disagree with that.
Yeah, I remember you were sort of saying this.
I think he disagrees with it too, but he's saying what he legally is required to say.
Fair enough. Women shouldn't be in combat roles because men look at women differently. Psychologically, men are going to defer to women. Human beings prefer women over men. That's just something that's built into us.
I can vouch for that.
Everybody is nicer to women than they are to men. That's just the way it is. I'm not saying that men are victims because of it. I'm just saying this is reality. And because of that, women are the magic creatures that make babies. And most of Western society, wealthy societies in particular, don't replace themselves. So no women in combat roles at all.
Yes, and I'm going to disagree with that one, just simply on the basis of this. You put a protocol, this is what you need to do to be a Marine, right? If a woman gets through that, just the same one that every other man does, right? And she wants to be in a combat role, and she can do the job and isn't a liability, I'm okay with that. The psychological aspects that you sort of touched on, I feel like, there could be something there, but at the same time, I feel like, in the military, there's like a brotherhood, right?
Yeah.
You're there to, for you guys. And, even if that were true, I don't think it's fair to say to women who want to do the job, you can't because some guys might be affected by it.
Life's not fair. I don't care. The fact of the matter, also there was a study done by the Marine Corps, and all male units perform better than integrated units. Yep. All across the board, they perform better in every aspect than integrated units. First of all, and second of all, I forget what my second point was but at the end of the day, I think that there's nothing wrong with having women in the military. There's a ton of jobs they can do. They just don't need to be. They don't need to be in combat.
I think the issue with the combat is that once you agree women can and should be in combat, then women can and should be drafted. And I'm for it because take a look at this. Look how fat everybody is.
Oh, yes.
Women's average height is 5'4", and they weigh 170 pounds. I'm like,
insane.
Don't get me wrong, guys are 5'8" and weigh 200 pounds. Y'all need basic training.
Yeah.
Bring them to camp, make them crawl around in the mud. They eat proper food and they work out and they got to do 50 push-ups because y'all are fat.
One quick thing to the point. I was saying that you were saying not the baby makers. You were talking about standards. It's also been shown that when standards are high and women continue to not meet the standards, the upper NCOs and brass start looking at the people that are actually training them and saying, "What's wrong? Why are no women meeting the standards?" And they end up lowering the standards.
Yeah, that should never happen.
That's part of human psychology.
That's
though.
essentially what DEI does, right? The whole concept of it is the only way to, the equation is simple, right? Let's say you want to get the 100 best doctors, right? And 5 of them are people of color, okay? Well, you want to get it to 20. Well, how do you do that, right? Well, you have to you have to look deeper into the list to get there. So what you essentially have done is you've not taken the top 100, you've taken, some of the top 150.
Of course, you skipped over.
You've skipped over other people who.
I got to say this, in all seriousness about women in combat, the stories I've heard from my friends who are veterans and have gone through basic training about how women are treated have nothing to do with the standards. So what I've heard is standards might be the same, but they're still not going to hold the women at an individual level to those standards.
10,000%.
I'm just going to ask Raymond,
yes, sir,
who actually is a veteran.
Yeah.
When you were in basic training, were there women?
Negative.
You had no women.
I was an infantry unit, and I'm sorry.
Oh, interesting.
Infantry, no women, 0. Back in the day, and
Do you know anybody who did basic with women?
No, I don't know any pogues.
Really?
Or anyone else, no.
So I want to defer to you first.
No, I don't, sir. No, yeah.
Because my story is just hearsay. I've spent time around a few different military bases. I briefly lived on one with family, very briefly. And what I ended up hearing, and I have family who are veterans, what I heard is that from a bunch of different guys, is that despite the fact the women were supposed to have the same standards, they would cry and the guys, the commanding officers would say, just stop, just go, just leave.
So that
100%.
can't happen, right? So here's
I
the
mean,
thing.
That
Bill,
can't be
also-
avoided.
So
though.
here's what I'm thinking, though. Like in a utopian world, right? I think it should be as simple as this.
Sure.
Here's the standard. If you qualify, you're in. Regardless of whether you're a man or woman, it should be that, right? If there are, steps being taken to sort of like make it easier for one sex or the other, and it risks the lives of the the other combatants and stuff like that, then obviously not.
But the issue is that it's granular.
Yeah, I don't think that you can avoid it either.
We also let fat people.
We're gonna
tell fat
say
people sometimes.
everyone's got to do 100 push-ups, and what's going to happen is, in an individual level, the guy does 100, the woman does 70, complains, and the guy in charge goes, "It's fine."
See, that shouldn't happen. That's like
you
bad
can't
leadership.
you can't
How do
avoid
you
that.
stop that?
You
just
can't.
tell the guy, no.
No.
You should do 100 or not.
But
Should
that,
you do
but
100?
out. The reality is that is human nature. Like I said earlier, human beings prefer women to men. That's just the way we are, and it's built into us because women make babies. That's part of DNA.
Real quick, I want to throw it to the super chat because I am not a veteran, so me telling a story based on hearsay about people's experience in basic training with women, I'm curious for you guys to chat or super chat your experiences in basic training.
Bring 'em in.
with women and men, and tell me I'm wrong. Tell me I'm wrong. I don't want to just give hearsay as fact, right?
Yeah, I never did women in boot camp.
It's anecdotal
or any
anyway,
kind of
right?
Yeah.
People's experience is their perception of the experience. It might not necessarily even be true, right? Like
Tim, I put
and how much do we put into sort of limited data like that, right?
In the Slack, I put in the link to that to the piece where they say that integrated units perform worse than all male.
I read that.
Someone sent me the a link to it. But anyway, so go ahead. Sorry for
No, that's all, guy.
But we helped out like officers are terrible at what they do. They go to officer training school and they come into the Fleet Marine Force and they can't hump and they can't run and they can't hike, and we still let them, be in charge of us. Even though they're falling behind, and we got to help them out. Or we let fat bodies, it's with the stripe people. If you guys know what I'm talking about, if you're in the Marine Corps, you had stripes platoons. They would have to do another recourse over again, to go through boot camp again. So we give standards. We let people go all the time. But I agree with you, Daniel. If we just said there's a limit, stop it, done, and if everyone listened to that, it'd be great.
I'm going to pause and just say, I want women in combat. I want Democrats to champion women in combat. And then I want Democrats to confirm that women will be forced to sign up for selective service, because it is the fastest way to get the entire female demographic in this country to vote Republican.
I mean, yeah, if we're going to do that, then, I love women. I don't want them to die. But if they want their rights, equal rights, man, got to do it.
Republicans are traditionalist, largely.
Yep.
And so there's many prominent conservatives and Republicans who are saying women don't fight. I don't care about standards. I don't care what you think. Women are not fighters. Men should be fighters. Democrats are saying women are equal and can fight if they want to. And so this is actually true. The push for women to sign up for the draft in the U.S. was Democrats, not Republicans. Republicans took moral issue with it. Democrats think it's a moral issue not to do it. And young women across the country lost their minds on TikTok, screaming, I am not doing this. I did not vote for this.
Yeah.
So ladies, come on down. Men in the Republican Party want to make sure that you can be comfortable, that you can live your beautiful life and never have to raise a weapon. And Democrats want you on the front lines.
And I think the sane position should be simply this: it's up to you. If you want to be in combat and you can handle the rigorous training and you're going to be a good asset, I'm all for it. But again, obviously not at any lowering of any bars.
Yeah, that's what I love about.
But
They tried that with they tried that in the Rangers, and the Rangers weren't graduating women, and so they started looking at the Ranger units. Why aren't you graduating?
That's essentially what DEI is, right?
Yeah.
So when DEI gets involved, it's like, okay, well, how do we get?
I don't think we can have
better
one without
demographic?
because I think
You
of human
can't-
psychology, we can't get one without the other.
No, why not?
Because of law.
Yeah.
So what ends up happening is
Fair.
the reason why Hegseth is saying he supports women in combat is that it is a 1964 Civil Rights Act legal requirement for him to do so. So what happens then is women will file a lawsuit saying the standards are discriminatory. You can see from the results, women aren't passing. If it's going to be gender neutral, it has to be a standard that applies to men and women, not just men.
That's all nonsense.
And that's what happens.
Yeah, that's all nonsense.
I agree.
That's the danger. That's the dangerous aspect of it, where it sounds in theory like a nice thing. Well, let's be inclusive. Let's be diverse. Let's do all that. Oh, okay, but yeah, when it comes to war, people's lives are on the line.
Amen.
So you want to make sure that everybody there got in the same way and passed the same tests and are equally qualified. And again, I don't care if they're male or female. It's irrelevant to me as long as they can do the job. But any sort of, manipulating the standards in order to get this exact demographic you want is literally putting people's lives at risk.
Every time you make standards that one group consistently misses, there will be people that will make accommodations so that way that group passes. That was what happened. That's what happened with George Bush's No Child Left Behind. No Child Left Behind was instituted, and because people weren't graduating, teachers just started saying, "Okay, push them on through," and now like 30% of graduating students can't read at all.
Well, I'd say there's a loud pushback though against the whole process. Like when you look at, say, for example, school admissions, right, with the Asian community, right? If you're an Asian male and you want to get into an Ivy League school, the road to get there is almost impossible in comparison to somebody, maybe a person of color or whatever, when the standards are different, right? So there's been a big pushback where they've changed rules and stuff like that.
But the results
they can't do that anymore.
The results in the military are dead people.
Right.
Because you have to have
the
people.
Severity is more.
Yeah, it's far more dramatic than just, Johnny down there doesn't read good. You know what I mean? It's like he graduates or whatever, and he doesn't read as well as other people that graduated. Well, they just kind of shoved him through to get him out the door. It sucks for him.
Then there should be some standardized rules in terms of like the bar. Yeah. And it's as simple as this: if you don't hit each and every one that's documented, you're not in. If you do, you're in.
That's what's supposed to happen with, like I said, that's what's supposed to happen with No Child Left Behind. They're supposed to be, the point of No Child Left Behind was educate all children. But because people are different and because all the kids have different aptitudes, which is totally ignored, they just start shoving people through. And that's right. Part of human beings. We are just people that are completely, we're all different and we all have different abilities, and you can't make the unable able. So what ends up happening is you start letting the unable go do the stuff that the able people are. And in a combat situation, that means more deaths, and it also means the United States losing more engagements. And if you lose too many engagements, you lose wars.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.